One of the most stressful parts of traveling is boarding a plane only to find that there isn't any overhead space. The next thing you know, you're having to walk down the airplane aisle in search for an overhead bin that is away from your seat, or worse, you're forced to check in your bag because there isn't any space available. Hey, how's it going everyone? It's Ernest from TripAstute. In this video, we're going to cover ways to get ahead of the general crowd when boarding a plane and how you can increase the odds of getting a coveted overhead bin space. I know many of you like to pack light and avoid checking in your bag. Doing so means that you not only save on baggage fees for many flights, but also on the time having to wait at the baggage claim for your luggage. There are also times when you don't want to risk the chance of losing your luggage on a flight, especially if you're going to a special event or an important work meeting. Though getting an overhead bin space can be a challenge, especially if you're on a full flight. It also doesn't help that many passengers will often start putting all their bags and personal items in the overhead bins, taking up the previous room for bags that can't fit underneath the seat. If you're one of those people, make sure you wait until everyone is on board before stuffing the bins with your personal items. So today, I want to explore how to get priority boarding on a flight. I know some of you hate the idea of paying extra, but since this is a common travel stress point during air travel for me, I'm guessing it's the same for you. I know that I've felt that it's worth paying a bit extra if I can increase the odds of getting an overhead bin space, and in the case of Southwest and JetBlue, getting a better seat. Before we get started, if you're new here, welcome to our channel. TripAstute is a travel channel that is focused on sharing ways to make travel easier, affordable, and more enjoyable. Traveling can be stressful and expensive, so we're looking for ways to help you maximize your experience through travel tips, points and miles, and innovative gear. If that sounds interesting to you, please consider subscribing. The traditional way of getting into a priority boarding group is to have airline status. In fact, when I used to travel every week as a consultant, I earned United Gold status, which I absolutely loved. Since I was spending a lot of time on planes, being able to get on board early and stow my baggage without any worries was great. And every once in a while, I got a bump into business class, which was even better. Nowadays, I don't travel as much for work, so getting priority boarding is more of a challenge. So I thought we would explore the options available with some of the major airline carriers in the US. Of course, there are a ton of different airlines with different policies, but for the sake of this video, I thought we would focus on American Airlines, Delta, JetBlue, United, and Southwest. So let's jump into each airline's priority boarding options. For American Airlines, you'll notice that when selecting your seat that American Airlines tries to steer you toward premium seats with the promise that you can board earlier and get better access to overhead bins. However, you don't have to get an expensive seat. You can purchase a priority boarding pass when booking your ticket or even after your booking is complete. The prices vary, but start at $9 per way. Buying priority boarding gets you into Group 4, which is 2 groups ahead of the main boarding group. There's still a lot of boarding groups ahead of you, but I think you're still likely to find an overhead bin if you're in any group prior to Group 7. For Delta, you can purchase priority boarding for $15. This allows you to board during the main cabin 1 group. The priority boarding covers a flight, so you would need to purchase it for multiple legs if you don't have a non-stop flight. The main cabin 1 group is where some of the lower tier status members are boarding, so it's very likely that you'll get an overhead bin space. Sadly, anyone seated in basic economy is almost guaranteed to struggle to find any bin space, and the option to get priority boarding is not an option if you're in basic economy. For JetBlue, they offer a service called Even More Space. You're essentially getting a larger seat, priority boarding, and access to special security lines. It costs around $30 to $90 depending on your flight. The Even More Space boarding group is fairly high on the list, so your odds of getting an overhead bin space is high. For Southwest, it's a bit complicated. Southwest assigns your boarding group based on the time that you check into your flight. Basically, they allow you to check in 24 hours before your flight, though if you're not quick to check in, you can often end up in the later boarding group. Southwest passengers with A-list status automatically get into the A boarding group. However, Southwest does sell an early boarding check-in service for flights. For $50 to $25 per flight, you can automatically be checked in, which usually means that you're in the A group. There's no guarantee, but you're definitely going to be ahead of the general boarding group that manually checks in. For United, they offer a few options for priority boarding starting at $15. This gets you into boarding group 2, which is just ahead of the general boarding groups. They also have a Premier Access service that lets you use a special security line. However, like Delta, the caveat is that you can't get either of these services if you're flying a basic economy ticket. So you might be asking, are there other ways to get priority boarding? The answer is yes. For those of you that watch this channel, you know that I have the United Explorer card, which gives me a free checked-in bag and additional award seat availability, but also priority boarding. In fact, many of the airline credit cards offer some kind of priority boarding service. I guess you could call it the poor man's airline status, but hey, it works. For example, the American Airlines City A Advantage Executive Card gives you priority boarding. The Personal and City Business A Advantage Platinum Select cards give you preferred boarding as part of your card membership. As I mentioned earlier, priority boarding gets you into Group 4 and preferred boarding gets you into Group 5. The general boarding starts at Group 6, so it should help alleviate the issue of finding an overhead bin space. For Delta, the American Express Delta Reserve, Platinum Delta SkyMiles, and Gold Delta SkyMiles cards all offer main cabin 1 priority boarding. Unfortunately for JetBlue, neither of the JetBlue cards from Barclaycard offer any sort of priority boarding perk or benefit. For Southwest, the Chase Southwest Rapid Rewards Priority Card and the New Performance Business Card offer 4 upgraded boardings per year. And for United, both the Chase United Explorer and United Explorer Business provide priority boarding, which is Group 2. The Chase United Club Card offers Premier Access. And finally, there are several credit cards that offer some kind of travel credit or flight incidental credit. For example, the Chase Sapphire Reserve offers a $300 travel credit, which can be applied to pretty much anything related to travel. Both the American Express Platinum and Gold card have an airline fee credit, which you can use on incidentals like baggage fees, lounge passes, or even priority boarding passes. While buying airline gift cards used to work to trigger the credit, it no longer does. So consider getting a priority boarding pass if you need to use your airline fee credit on your Gold or Platinum card. Lastly, I have a few tips I want to share if you're interested in priority boarding. Number 1, priority boarding passes are usually non-refundable. I know this to be the case since I've changed my Southwest flights so many times and lost the early bird check-in that I purchased. These services are usually not transferable either, so if you change your flight, you usually have to repurchase the priority boarding if you want it. It's very annoying, but it's just the way it is. Number 2, consider getting Global Entry or TSA PreCheck. Some of these priority or preferred boarding services allow you to skip into the expedited security line. However, sometimes it's the same line as TSA PreCheck or one that is similar. I personally think that Global Entry and TSA PreCheck are valuable services to get, especially if you have a credit card that will reimburse you for the fees. For more information on Global Entry, which includes TSA PreCheck, check out our video on it. Having these services really helps to reduce the stress of air travel by making it easier and faster to get through security. And if you happen to have multiple cards with the Global Entry or TSA PreCheck reimbursement benefit, consider applying it toward a family member or friend who travels. Number 3, consider an award status match. If you happen to be a frequent flyer on a specific airline but are traveling on another airline without any status, consider requesting a status match. We did a whole video on the process, so check it out for more information. Number 4, pack a collapsible bag. Despite your best effort to travel without checking in your bag, there's always a possibility that you'll have to do it. If you don't have another personal item or bag, I recommend packing a collapsible bag. This will allow you to quickly transfer some items from your main bag in the event that you're forced to check in your carry-on luggage. This happened to me once when I used to travel for work. There was one week where I flew to a smaller airport to visit a data center in Texas, and the plane had smaller overhead compartments which didn't fit my bag. So always assume that you might have to check in your bag even if you don't want to. Have any of you paid for a priority or preferred boarding upgrade? Or do you just use a credit card benefit to board early? I'm curious how you handle this stressful and annoying aspect of air travel. If you're interested in applying for a credit card, we would love it if you use our link in the video description or on our website. It's an easy way to support our channel, especially if you found our content to be valuable and helpful. Also, if you need help with picking the right card or developing a card strategy, sign up for our free card consultation service. You basically fill out a questionnaire and schedule a 15-minute video or audio call with me to review your recommendation. As always, we hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. If so, please give us a thumbs up and consider sharing the video with others. It really helps us growing our channel and community. Until next time, travel safe and travel smart.